everybody, and welcome back. We haven't had this show in a while. This is Indie Film Cafe
Hey,
Spotlight. But what a way to way to come back. So I'm your host, Jonathan Moody. I'm here with my co-host.
Paulie Presenza, otherwise known as the Moo Cow Moo.
Yes, he's got a shirt that says "Ask me about my moo cow." So we
Please
now we know.
do.
Yeah. Anyway, we also got Todd Jason Cook or Todd Jason Falcon Cook, however you want to say it. How are you doing, Todd?
Doing good. How about you, bro?
Doing great. So I've been a fan of yours for a while. Chris Seaver turned me on to your stuff.
Exactly.
Cool.
Before the Evil Knight remake, he had been, I guess, an audio commentary. I'd always hear about, the him working with you on, your first label, which was Cemetery Cinema. And
Mhm.
then, all the other stuff that you've been doing with Scream Time Films. So we're going to get into that. But first of all, we just got to know, how the hell did you get into making movies?
I think this answer has probably, by this point in life, been oversaid probably by everyone. Friday the 13th. Okay. I'm the standard kid who saw the original and went ape shit and lost my mind because of the gore effects and how amazing all this stuff was. Had to see it again and again. I picked up my Super 8 film camera, I want to say a week later, and started making sequels. I already had in mind to do up to part 13 right away, and
Well,
just ran off the kid, made all these little Super 8 films, which I thankfully still have. Every one of them are Friday the 13th sequels. So that is the series. And well, let me back up just a tiny hair before, because I did love horror before Friday, but Friday, I think, is what said, I got to do this. But previous to Friday, I would say the movie Westworld, the 1976 film,
Yul
Michael
Brynner.
Crichton. Yes, Yul Brynner, who I look very much like these days. And I love the whole concept of a world in which robots, and we're getting there now, which is really scary. But that movie, I think, set my love for horror. Even though it wasn't pure horror, it's kind of Western sci-fi horror, but there's elements of horror in it. Technology taking over the people. That concept I thought was incredible. So that led me to, let's see, Salem's Lot. The TV series came out, I think, that year. So I'm glued to all this stuff. But Friday the 13th, part one, particularly said, I'm making movies for the rest of my life, and that's all there is to it. And
Well,
I've
that's
stood by that
interesting,
word.
especially since at the same time, the other thing you're known for is the whole roller skating or skateboarding thing. And
Mm-hmm.
we have a whole director who made a whole bunch of weird horror movies mashed up with roller skates. And it's rollerblade and roller gator and stuff like that. So I
Nice.
was just wondering if you happen to take any interest from Donald G. Jackson.
I've actually not heard that name before.
Oh, okay.
What? He's
I,
the director of what is it? Frogtown.
Out
Out
comes the
comes the Frogtown.
Frogtown, and
I know the movie by name. Wasn't that Rowdy Roddy Piper?
yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
Yep.
Okay. I've never, to this day, I've not seen it. I remember the trailers and whatnot. I remember him being,
Oh, very
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
he has entire movies where the cast are either on roller skates or on skateboards.
nice. Did he do any disco roller boogie movies of the 70s?
Nope. It has nothing to do with that. It's just he just put them on there just for shits and
Uh-huh.
gigs. It's just they're amazing.
I we
Nice.
we reviewed a movie called Rollerblade that he did, and it's
Mm.
so
Uh,
funny because none of them are actually on rollerblades because it was pre-actual rollerblades. So
yeah.
it's literally, we think we have a feeling that Rollerblade stole the name from the movie, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Very, very possible.
Maybe.
But
So
anyway,
can you still do roller tricks and like you did when you were a teenager?
No, I retired from skateboarding, or shall I say, skateboarding forced me to retire in 2015 when I snapped my spine. So
Oh,
oh,
I don't do it anymore. I had to
wow.
quit overnight, basically.
that's
I had to
probably a
relearn
good
to
idea
walk.
after that.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, it wasn't really one particular trick. It was just, I guess, my relentless pursuit in life with skateboarding was to invent the most original tricks that no one's ever seen, reach these new levels, constantly like chasing new levels, chasing new levels, chasing new levels. What's the next level? What's the next level? And it just got to be so physically tasking that just the sheer volume of 40 years of doing it, and then of the repetition of, a certain handful of tricks that were so hardcore on the body, one of them just finally caused me just to, the straw that broke the camel's back, or that
Ugh.
broke my back, literally. So I
You
just
were the
quit right then
camel
and
in
there.
that, you were the camel in that particular
It, yeah,
situation.
it was the worst of my life.
Oh,
Absolutely, for sure. My daughter had just been born too, so I'm like in a wheelchair for about 3 years, unable
Oh
to walk,
God.
oh man.
having to take care of her. I had to relearn how to walk, and spent, I want to say, nine. I've had this injury for 9 years. I'm still not better, but I can walk. So praise Jesus for that.
Yeah.
And I'm just thankful, because there was a lot of years where I could not walk without struggling or falling or having constantly, my back was like arched over big time. I walked like a hunchback, pulling myself along. So
Mm.
I had to rebuild a lot of muscle on my back and my body. And yet the whole period was just, you know, and it's something I gave my whole life to and love more than anything. But just literally, I had to take the light switch and go, no more.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I haven't even noticed the difference because I stay so busy with art. It's like I can't skate anymore. Okay, back to focusing 50 on movies and 50% on music. So just narrowed it down to the other two things that are most important in my life. So
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I just
yeah.
remember seeing a thing on YouTube about Tony Hawk, who was
Mm-hmm.
trying to pull one of his tricks that he used to do when he was younger, and he's in his 50s now, and it
Oh yeah.
took him multiple times before he finally managed to do that. And he said, that's it. That's the last time I ever even try to do this, because and people don't get it. I mean, it's not easy doing that stuff, and you got to be really physical. You got to be athletic. You got to have
Mm-hmm.
timing. That's no joke. So yeah, I my hats off to anyone who can do that.
Well, absolutely. You see, when I first started skateboarding, which was in 1976, the same year I saw Westworld and Salem's Lot, I believe, picked up the little plastic banana boards. They're real short, small, squatty boards. The wheels are butted up together. Weren't really built for tricks, so it was kind of cruising around and stuff like that. But then when it got real big in the early 80s and the big boards came out and we all got one, we're like, man, we can do airs and on ollies and this and that. It just became a matter of, wow, how far can I take it? And I'm going to spend my whole life just devoting to that one task. But you're so right when you talk about how difficult it is. A lot of people can look at sports and go, that's not really that big of a deal. But when they try it for the first time in their lives, they're mind blown, like just by the simple ollie. Learning how to ollie for someone who's never done it, it can take you days, weeks, months, or hours or minutes. It just depends on who you are. It's a very awkward thing to start learning
Oh, I can
and to
never.
maintain
I
that for
can.
your whole life.
I'm sorry. I can
Go
never
ahead.
do it. I can never skateboard at all. Like
Yeah, me either. I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s, and the first time I tried a skateboard, I fell flat on my face and smashed my nose and said, "Yeah, that's it."
too
Oh
much.
boy. Yeah, I can't blame you for quitting. You find out right away if you got the knack for it. If you're going to be eating concrete too much, then you decide, no, got better things to do with my face.
Right, right.
Did you like putting that stuff into your films?
Skateboarding?
Yeah, did you put like a lot of
I
skateboarding
mean,
into your
it
films?
opens up the original Evil Knight, doesn't it?
That's true. Yeah, I was about to say, I was trying to think, where did I use? Yeah, the he's right. Paul is right. At the very beginning, I believe it shows me doing a backside 180 ollie in slow motion, and the girl's taking some pictures.
Hmm.
And there's a couple tricks. I think we just threw that in because we were going to the park to film, some footage, and I was like, well, that wasn't even in the script really, as far as I remember. I think we just go, hey, let's just stop over here. I'll do a couple tricks and we can have her because I knew it'd look cool on camera. I was like, I can pull these big tricks. Why not use a couple? So I took my little launch ramp down there in the trunk of the car down the road to this park and just filmed a few shots and threw it in, sure enough. So
Very cool.
that's
Awesome.
how that happened.
That's great. So The Evil Knight was your first production, wasn't it?
Well, first release, but not first. My first, I mean, you could like maybe go back to the Super 8 1980 if you're going to say very first, but not full length by any means. First full length released would be Evil Night, but first full length ever that I accomplished was done beforehand, which was what led me to do Evil Night, and that is in 1989. having spent 9 years with Friday the 13th films and making all these little short films, finally getting a video camera in 1987. Now I've got sound, started making more Friday the 13th sequels. I'm up to part 87 by now or whatever. So in 1989, I decided to come up with the most ambitious thing I thought I could come up with as a kid. Let's do Friday the 13th, part 13, the final destruction, to make it the end of the series. And this will be like, if I can pull off making a feature film by myself and with friends and just the help of friends and yada yada, if I can pull this off, I'll do another one. So Evil Night was born from the success of having achieved making a full length Friday the 13th, part 13 feature film. And it took
Nice.
a year and a half to film from 89 to 90. And a kid that lived 2 houses over, who became my best friend, decided that he would star in it with me. And we were the primary actors. He was the main star, and he played the son of telekinetic Tina from part 7. And
Nice.
he has inherited a special gift from his mother, of course, who is now deceased. And he explains the stories. He lost his mom, blah, blah, blah. Never really knew why. Later on, he comes face to face with not just Jason, but we resurrect Roy, his mother, and we were going to go back and do 9, 10, 11, 12, and somewhere put in Jason's father. So you got 4 hockey mask killers encircling that kid. By the end of the movie, in a ring of fire, which he's created with his pyrokinesis, surrounds all 4 of them and himself, and he fights to the death and dies in the process, but ends the whole series. So that accomplishing that movie, and it's actually pretty ambitious for an 18-year-old kid to do, because the entire last 30 minutes solid is all the chase, not the last 10 like in most sequels, or you get 10, 15 minutes. 30 non-stop minutes of being chased by one killer to another, which eventually leads to this circle of fire and this culmination. So to
Jeez.
achieve that ultimate dream in 89 set me on the foot of, I made it. I did my first feature. I can't sell it. I got to do an original feature that I can sell. Here
Right.
comes Evil Night.
And I
So
was
here
going to
comes.
ask, and all of this was self-financed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I think I want to say all of my movies in the early days were self-financed, except for Death Metal Zombies and Zombified. That came way later in the digital era, but that one was the most expensive for sure. And there was help, on that one. But all the rest, I think, yeah, all self-financed pretty much.
So, do you still have the Friday the 13th copy of it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about, I mean, I don't know if you have or not, but have you ever thought about like putting it out on YouTube or something for people to see?
It's been in my private YouTube account along with 2 other full-length Friday the 13th fan films, including a Jason versus Michael Myers full-length fan film that I did in 1996.
Nice.
We can talk
Nice.
about all this if you guys would like. But I've got the 3 on there. I just, to this day, have not made them public. I'm just kind of like, I think I'm waiting for the right time to do that.
Well, I would have thought the right time is
Because
now because of all the stuff that's the
But they haven't settled anything yet, though, with the
yeah.
Friday the 13th stuff. So, I mean, I can understand being a little bit cautious about all that, just because
yeah,
who the heck knows what's going to happen. Halloween's a little different. That seems like, Carpenter seemed to wash his hands pretty much soon as the first one was done, and he didn't really seem to care much what happened after that. But it's a different bowl of fish with Friday the 13th series.
yeah. I mean, I see fans doing their films all the time. Mine might have been on the account for like 20 something years or whatever. But like I said, I was like, is it okay to really do this? I mean, you're not going to piss off like Sean Cunningham or anything, because, that's my hero right there. The last thing you want to do is upset the band.
I did that. I Indiegogo because everybody was doing an Indiegogo for Friday the 13th fan films before the whole
Yeah.
issue was happening. So I wanted a Crystal Lake TV series and I was going to Indiegogo it and everything was going good and then all of a sudden I got a cease and desist from Crystal Lake Entertainment. I'm like,
Oh,
fuck, man. And that's even worse because like that means yeah, Sean S. Cunningham put his name on that thing saying this person, Mr. Jonathan Moody, they have my address, they have my
You're
information.
on his shit list, dude.
I know. And I'm like, damn, because I mean, at that point, nothing was happening, you know? So I
Uh-huh.
just felt like, why not? The fans sort of wanted to see sort of that kind of stuff. And my idea involved Tommy, Jarvis, and Tina joining forces to fight Jason. And fortunately,
Cool.
we'll never see anything like that. So I don't think unless it's
I
the
get the
fan
feeling
film.
he's going to release one final one by himself, and he's going to have all the people that he didn't like who used his property without his intellectual property without his consent,
As
like
victims.
you, and you're all going to be like killed in the movie.
I would if he wants to invite me out and have my character killed off, and I'll play it. I'm fine with that, But
That's the reason that maybe why I haven't released him is because I've spent a lifetime hoping to direct the part 13 for real and like planning my whole life around it and building these blocks and these relationships and spending 40 years hoping to one day sit down and go, hey, you know, and present it. But I was like, I mean, everyone in the world wants to do it these days, though, and as you're really lost in the sea of anonymity
Mm-hmm.
at this point
Mm-hmm.
with everyone now that talks like me. I came out of the womb talking like this as soon as Friday the 13th, popped out. So I've always been going, yeah, I'm going to make 13 Friday the 13th, and one day I'm going to make the film and blah 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 blah. So making the fan film, it might be the closest I ever get, and that's fine because hey, I did it. At least I can say I did part 13 first. Yay!
yay.
There you go.
Well,
Right?
that
Even
it's
even though no one's seen it.
well, I mean, and at some point maybe. I mean, because I swear I think a lot of these companies should be flattered,
Yeah, it's
Um,
not like you're making money
yeah.
when you
Right.
when
It's
you
it's
go
an
YouTube.
homage.
Yeah, you're a fan wanting to show your love.
Right,
That's why I
exactly.
made the film.
This is
Mhm.
not made to make money. This is made for the sheer love of the material. And I think Jonathan Moody is completely correct. I think they should accept that for what it is.
I know Star Wars actually, and maybe it's changed, but I remember like there's StarWars.com and there's even an app for Star Wars and they have fan films, that they
Uh-huh.
treasure and stuff. So a lot of these companies should be like, wait, we should lean into the fan films. Some of them aren't going to be great, because, whatever, for whatever
Right.
reason. People are
Yeah.
going out there with their video cameras and shooting whatever they want to make and everything. And some of them aren't going to be great. Some of them are going to be a more high caliber. And I'm sure yours was more high caliber and a
It's
lot of fun, like the way you
it's
described it.
the same thing with Star Trek. They even accepted spec scripts from fans and actually made a number of
Wow.
episodes from that. So
Wow.
it's 100% different when you're
Mhm.
dealing with a corporation that is welcoming to the fans, and it just generates more fans. And I just think it's
Exactly.
very short-sighted for them not to do that.
Exactly, because this is free promotion to further their franchise. Let's say that fan filmmaker Infinity, me or you or whoever that is obsessed with Friday making these sequels, if they've got a big fan base to bring to the table, they're passing on that basically.
Right,
Free
Hmm.
promotion, free,
right.
and then we're not making money off the Friday stuff. We're just in love with the film, wanting to go,
Hmm.
hey, here's my take on for instance, with mine, here's my take on how the series would end. This is my brains, showing you my vision of it. It's not
Yeah.
going to be your vision. Everyone may hate it, everyone may love it. Maybe it's a split audience, but it's, a personal vision built out of love and passion.
Yeah, in my version, Jason's running around in a cow suit.
See,
It's
there you go.
Jumping over the moon, jumping over
even
the
creepier. You hear the little cow bell, and people are like, "Oh God, he's here!"
and somebody's still going to say more cowbell.
Yep.
Yeah. And it'll be like, but it'll be the cowbell going, you know.
No,
Ding,
it'll
ding,
be
ding, ding.
ting, 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 tang, tang, tang.
Awesome.
There you go. So let's get back to Evil Knight. So Evil Knight's your first one that you got out there into the world that you
Out.
could sell
Yes.
and everything.
Yes.
And it does really well, right? Like it did pretty well for a low budget SOV film, right?
It started off well. It started off slow, as would anything that you are self-distributing marketing. You don't expect to come out of the gate flying and selling thousands, which we did not. But over the years, yes, it has built up, and now it's got this following, and it sells every week. Whereas before, the first 5 or even 10 years, not so much. But here we are, what, 30? I don't want to show my age, Jesus, 30 something years later. Yeah, it still does pretty well. People are always getting it or the remake or the new sequel, another Evil Night, which I only produced. But hey, it's a rad to be able to say two other filmmakers that were fans wanted to also jump in. And again, hey, that's promotion for the original Evil Night, going back to what we were just talking about. Like, hell yes, I'm never going to tell anyone, no, don't remake my films or don't make sequels. I'll say, hell yes. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah,
I
and the year was
was
92. So
I was
the
going to
first Evil Night.
ask if you had seen the Chris Seaver version, and I was going to ask what you thought about it because
Well,
it
yeah,
is different.
yes, I released it. Scream Time released that, and he did a Warlock release as well, I believe. So
Hmm.
I loved it. I've always loved Chris's movies. You know, from his kid style movies up to getting his first distribution. His stuff's always been like, I want to say like Naked Gun or Airplane, over the top, zany, funny
Hmm.
comedy style, creating their own lingo, their own world around it. I'm like, this is really cool. I've created my own world. This kid's doing the same thing in a very comedic way. So I loved his comedic approach. And I like to say, to me, the movie feels like, just to condense it down, feels like Evil Night meets Zapped. Does anyone remember Zapped?
Like
Was that
Scott
Scott
Baio.
Baio?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Think
That's
about it. I mean, if you think about the remake, it just has that kind of 80s zany teen romp comedy feel to it. We get the boobs and the telekinesis and everything
I,
flying around and the funny one-liners. So, I mean,
that's cool.
Yeah,
I
I
love
loved
it.
it. It's one of, I mean, I own it, I believe, on Blu-ray, and I just absolutely like adore it. It's one of those movies that I watch all the time.
Cool.
I'm a huge, I mean, Chris Seaver got me into making like independent horror films, so
Nice.
when I got into that, and then I was discovering other filmmakers because of him and
Mhm.
everything,
Hmm.
and you were one of them because like I said before, he spoke of you like how he I guess he was a fan of yours, came to your
Yeah,
table, chatted with you, and then you guys worked together. I mean, that to me is just amazing.
that's a dream come true for a lot of folks like us.
Well, if you think about this also, guys, the time frame is way different from what it is now. Now the horror network and the conventions and all that stuff is huge. Now with everyone having cameras and technology, everyone can make films now. You probably see and run into people like this a lot more often. But
Mhm.
back then, the only way we communicated was like snail mail. I mean, he's in like New York, I'm in Texas, so we were going back and forth with letters before the internet, and then it turned to emails, and
Nice.
we couldn't even just find a filmmaker like you can today. It's like every two or three people you talk to is a filmmaker now.
Right. Like,
And I noticed there was one extra in the Chris Seaver one where Josh Schweier is saying that they got to use the original mask. So I presume that they got it from you.
I put it in the mail, shipped it to New York. He
Oh,
made the
that's
film. I
awesome.
put it in the mail and shipped it to Jason Harlow, Tennessee, I believe, for the sequel. I forget where Jason's from. I'm thinking Tennessee. So it's been it traveled around, and now it's back in my possession again.
That's
So
great.
so are you like, I mean, both of those are different than your original film. Are you okay with everybody having like their own style for their films?
yes, absolutely. There was nothing ever, no agreement made about going in and making them by a certain template or a certain style. I rarely ever step in to even make a suggestion, because when people like that, they want to do their vision. Everyone wants to do their vision. They don't want someone else's vision. They've got these great ideas. So if all those ideas are just going to get changed, then it's not really their vision. So I like to let people run their show and run their vision. If they ask for input or they want to co-op together, sure. I think I may have done that a little bit with Jason Harlow, but not really too much. I kind of just said, yeah, take it and go with it and surprise me. I love
That's
surprises.
that's great. I think that's a really good attitude because the thing is, I mean, for a little while there was this trend or there was this thing where people were kind of doing shot for shot remakes. And that just bugged me. I'm like, why are you doing that? I mean, I understand loving a film and wanting to do that, but put your own spin on it. You
Yeah.
know?
Now, have you guys seen the Terror Train remake?
No.
Mm-mm.
That's what I would call a shot for shot film. And I don't think I'd ever seen a literal shot for shot remake, but I really honestly love the remake. I think it is so great. You may not like it. Y'all may have a different opinion. I'm a huge fan of the original. The poster's sitting there looking at me right now.
Hmm.
Uh, but loved the remake. And I noticed, I was like, man, almost every single shot is even framed the same way. Like they got the lighting. That's a freaking insane challenge to do. Plus, they're
Yeah.
setting it in modern day. So that kind of it's a real interesting feel to it. It's like it makes you feel like you're in the old school 80s one camera style, but yet everyone's wearing like modern stuff and has phones, and FaceTime and all that. So,
Right. Well,
but it's neat.
I wasn't a big fan of like the Psycho remake, like shot
Right.
for shot remake, and only just
Mhm.
because
Just Van
like
Sant.
yeah, I felt like it was just it wasn't it wasn't fun to see it over again. And I didn't like the Cabin Fever one. Like I just was like, like why do I want to see the exact same thing just with different
Right.
actors and
It makes me
Mhm.
want to go back and see the original.
right.
Whereas, like when John Johnson redid Plan 9, he completely did his own spin on it and made it very different, even though he's kept it within the bounds of the original film. And I just thought that was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed that. And, but I mean, I guess
Yeah.
there are some people who would feel the opposite too. So I guess it all kind of depends.
Looking at that from a skateboarder standpoint, like nailing a trick, it's about coming away smooth or making it look intentional or this and that. I think the challenge of copying somebody's work shot for shot is a personal challenge. You know,
Mhm.
Hmm.
again, that's why I'd equate it with skateboarding because everyone's got their own style of doing the trick. It's still the same exact trick, but ooh, the way this dude does it that way, it's so stylish. And maybe some people like that challenge of I want to see if I can nail being able to make a perfect copy. Because let's face it, that can't be easy. In fact, I think that's got to be more difficult.
Oh yeah, it's got
So
to be much harder. It's going, in fact, it's going to put a lot more pressure on you than if you were just kind of going off and doing your own thing. And
exactly.
honestly, that's kind of how they do it in other places, like in Japan, where mimicry is considered a form of flattery. That's why you
Yeah.
got a lot of mangas and things like that that are pretty much the same thing over and over and over. A lot of the animation is the same thing because they're simply honoring the artist that came before them by following the exact same thing. It's just, it's just
Mm,
not for me. If I were to do it, I would want to put my own stamp on it personally. But that's
sure.
just me.
You'd want to put a
Mm.
cow in it
I'd want to put a cow in it
somewhere.
Ting,
somehow.
ting, 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 ting.
And make it a little bit silly, maybe in a different direction than say Chris Seaver. But yeah, I'm Captain Silly Pants. I can't help myself.
Well, and that's the thing. Like Chris Seaver has like this sort of specific sense of humor, and it wouldn't technically work with his style if he did do a shot for shot remake of like Evil Knight. Like your style and his style are different, and that's wonderful. Like because you can tell a Todd Cook film and you can tell a Chris Seaver film, and they're completely
Mhm.
different. That kind of
Right.
thing.
There is one specific shot I wanted to ask you about, and I'm wondering the part where the first guy gets his the decap, but not the full head decap. It's like from the jaw up, and I wondered, that seemed like that was a shot from Necromantique, the first Necromantique movie. They did something very similar to that in the late '80s, and I wondered if you had seen that and said, "Ooh, I'd love to be able to do something like that too."
So you're talking about the cigarette, exploding
Yes.
cigarette, and the head going off. It, I didn't get that idea from anybody other than the fact that I had a whole bunch of styrofoam heads, and I was like, if we do this shot really quick, literally a styrofoam head. I mean, awful. But it's like we need a quick prop. We don't have a neck stump prop. Get the styrofoam head. We'll cover it red and da 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 da. We'll just have the thing snap off so close and so fast. Hopefully, nobody will notice.
Moody, we happen to be talking with somebody that's one of us when he says something like, I had a whole bunch of styrofoam heads.
Might as
And
well
nothing
just
else
chop
to
them
do
up.
with them. Yeah, nothing better to do with them.
That's great.
Then I mean, so do you have your own like studio or do you just have your own office like at your house?
I'm sitting, well, it's dark in here right now, but I'm sitting in my studio room. Half of the side is divided by production side, and the other side is all music side. So there's like electronic drum set, a full size drum kit,
Ooh,
basses, and because I'm a musician as much as a filmmaker. So I just cut a line down the center of the room, and I'm on the editing and computer half. Like, here's my computer screen way up here, da 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 da. But yeah, it's kind of divided that way, split
no,
right down the middle.
I did not know about the music part. So, were you doing some of the music for your movies, kind of like Todd Sheets did?
Yeah, I did some score stuff, and I've always been a metalhead and a guitarist and a drummer. But back when I did Evil Night, I think we did mostly guitar-based stuff. I didn't have a real drum kit at that time, so we I think did a plinkety keyboard beat for the drums if we ever had drums back then. But basically, what happened was on the set of Evil Night, I met my first wife, Lisa. She was one of the extras.
Ooh,
Someone else didn't show up for a role somewhere down the line, and it was a big role. And I was like, I needed somebody, and I literally just asked out of frustration to the crowd, who can play Shannon for me? And here up comes this girl. Well, it was Lisa. Lisa Forbes was how I was introduced to her. So she decides not only does she want to play the role, she'd like to help as much as possible. I'm like, man, this chick is cool. She
right.
wants to stay over, help with effects, help with this. Nothing's really going on with this other than we're having a great time together. But next thing you know, it's like, yeah, we're starting to really, really like each other. And I find out she's an incredible vocalist and a singer. And I'm like, man, I grew up in the music industry. I'm in the entertainment industry. I've always wanted to have a band. Maybe this is that band finally coming. And sure enough, eventually we got married in 92 on Friday, November 13th.
Hmm.
Nice.
And we were together for 10 years, but the whole 10 years we were together, we made albums for my band Stage Dive, and she sang every one of the songs.
No.
And
Nice.
I think we did 25 albums. And
Whoa.
Whoa.
ironically, no Stage Dive songs were used in any of my films except I want to say Night of the Clown might have one, but I can't in a more recent edit. But for whatever reason, I kept the songs and all that separate.
Hmm.
But I have spent the last 2 or 3 years on brand new, never before seen Stage Dive stuff that's coming, including all 25 albums, all our music videos, basically the whole band's career, including a Stage Dive documentary that took me 35 years to film, covering the
Wow.
beginning of the band to literally her singing the very first song we ever recorded to not having a full band to here comes a guitarist to audition, here comes a drummer to audition, da 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 da, whatever. I played musical chairs a bunch of times, so I hopped around, but I wanted to be guitar ultimately. But I started off as the drummer. We looked for a guitarist. We lost a guitarist. I stepped back to the guitarist. We looked for a drummer. And so we ping pong around. Eventually, we got a solid band, 4 piece, and we're on stage. And we played something like 50 something shows. And I filmed every one of them with at least 3 cameras. So
Wow.
all that stuff. Yeah. Going to be
If
exciting to release it. And I hope anyone will give a damn, about music that's 30 years old. But what we were trying to do again with the music, like I try to do with everything, was to take this stuff to levels that no one has heard before. So I think it'll be interesting because the music is still ahead of its time today and it's already 30 years old. But I've not heard anything even remotely like what we've done, even still. Now, I'm not saying there's not something out there because now there's so much out there. Maybe
Hmm.
there is. I'm not aware of anything, and no one has come at me and gone, yeah, I've heard so and so sound like y'all, believe it or not. Still haven't heard that. So I'm like, maybe we still have some originality, to offer.
it's kind of fascinating to me that you did the exact same thing in your house that you've kind of done with your career, and that you've got your movie stuff on one side and you've got your music stuff on the other, and you really kind of don't mix it very much, which is kind of fascinating to me. I don't know how you can do that. That's got to be difficult.
It happened. The not putting them together was really, I don't want to say intentional. I just want to. It's like I look back at all the movies. It's like 92. We didn't have the band yet anyway, so that was a moot point. We made a few little pieces of score. I might have played some guitar riffs. We actually made an attempt to, and this is in the Stage Dive documentary. It shows Lisa singing the original Evil Night theme song, which I ultimately used only on some very rare cuts. So somebody out there may have one of these old cuts. If it ends
Nice.
with Lisa singing An evil night is not what you wanted. If it ends
Nice.
with that song, that's the original. But I took it out because I was like, man, if stage dive, we were way better than that shit. So wound up not decide. I think consciously just we were doing so many movies when we hit the band thing. I think the movies kind of stopped happening and we just went running with the band for the next 10 years. So I think that's why they didn't really combine
Hmm.
That's
because I made all the horror films. And when we hit the peak of that, the band formed, the incredible power and feeling and the hunger for being on that stage and performing, that I think that took over all of us. And so we just kind of focused on stage dive for, like I said, 10 years.
Yeah, and I can see how it's very different than, say, like I said, Todd Sheets, where he did a Knocky and Key, and he was doing that band for a while, and he used a lot of those songs, and especially in a lot of his early films, and because why not? I
Uh-huh.
mean, why pay for
Exactly.
somebody else's music when you've got your own? And he also did metal too, so that's kind of
Hmm.
interesting.
No, I remember all his shit, and I love Todd. I mean, Lisa and I flew up to Kansas and spent like 2 weeks with him. I still have the VHS tapes of that trip
It's
over here on
cool.
my shelf. Yeah,
that's
and we were
awesome.
gonna. The goal of that was, this was I want to say '94. I was just about to do Death Metal Zombies, and I really loved his zombie bloodbath movies, and one called Bloodthirsty Cannibal Demons, and I called. I literally he put his phone number at the end of the credits. It says, if you want to be involved in movies, call. So naturally, I pick up the phone. Hey, Todd, I'm Todd. And
Yeah.
he goes, oh, well, I've heard of you. I said, I've heard of you. I've got some of your films sitting here on my shelf. And I think I still have all those phone conversations recorded too, because back then I would document everything. Because when I get older,
Mhm.
like I am now, it's like, holy shit! Well, this is amazing to listen to this stuff. You know. So I think I still have our convos, and he was just so cool, and we got along so well. He's like, hey, come up here and hang out and see us. So we did. And the
God,
design was eventually we were hoping to do movies together, but next thing you know, we still haven't done a movie together, but we're constantly working and doing stuff, and we've
Yeah,
never.
that's great. I would love to be on a fly on the wall to see you, Todd Sheets, and Chris Seaver together in a room talking bands and movies and stuff. I think that would be awesome.
Now let's get Todd on the guitar, and I'll take the drums, and we can get Chris Seaver to play the bass, and we'll do the swanky vaginas or something.
Nice. Sign
yeah,
me up for that one.
that is crazy that like you guys are all, early, like in 90s SOV people, and yet you guys all were in bands and did the music thing as well. And that to me, I was not a music guy. I am not, I can't sing, I can't play. I'm deaf in my left ear, so like my everything's sort of off with me with things like that. So one wonderful, I love, music and everything, and I love hearing all that stuff, but it's just not for me. And as a filmmaker, I'd rather pay somebody or have somebody else, put their music in there and help them
Mhm.
out. That's me, you know.
It just goes to show you when you have very creative people, they will find ways to create, whether it's movies or writing or music or whatever it is, painting.
Mm,
That's awesome.
Mhm. Yes, because you fall in love with your craft, and it's not a narcissistic thing; it's an enjoyment thing. It's a feeling of you know energy for me. I always call it positive creative energy. And but and there's a lot of directors out there, maybe and filmmakers, and we've all heard this, I think, from Carpenter or maybe others, that they don't like their own films or they don't watch them or whatever it is. A lot of them say, I don't care for my stuff, or maybe they're too busy. But after I've made something, I want to sit down and enjoy it as many times as I can, because that I made this for me first and foremost. I hope other people will love it, of course, but for me, every project is a passion project and it's very personal. So why would I not want to enjoy that as much as I can through life?
Sure, sure.
Enjoy the fruits of your labor, basically. Feel proud about it. There's a big difference between pride and narcissism. So I think it's
mhm.
great to take pride in your work, for sure.
So that means, has Evil Knight come out in Blu-ray?
Let's see the original. No, not yet.
Well, do you think that might be something coming in the future?
I hope so. There's someone talking with me about doing Blu-ray for a good handful of titles, but we've been talking for, I want to say, a year, and I'm still waiting for the signature on the line and moving forward. But I'm ready to go on it. So let's hope that it happens. Because Blu-ray is something I originally was considering just doing myself, but I'm so busy, and it's hard enough just to keep up with DVD, VHS, and streaming. Like I really can't take on another format. If I do, then I'm not going to have time for music anymore, or this or that, or whatever. Something's going to drop off. I'm like, let's get another company outside. Well, ironically, this company contacted me, like I said, last year, and we're still talking. So hopefully that will move forward. But I do, if that one doesn't, maybe there's another one that will. Either way, I would love to see Paul hit Blu-ray for sure. That'd be
That'd be
cool.
great. And
Maybe there'll be a bidding war, trying to figure
and
out which one will buy you off first,
Oh, geez, I
you know,
wish.
I'm
I wish.
hoping
I wish there was a war for my film.
I'm hoping that when it does, and I have a feeling it will, because I think it's got a lot of people who like it. But I'm hoping that there'll be some interesting extras, because that's what we love. We love to hear filmmakers talk about their film, give us
Mhm.
stories about it, stories about the actors, where they came from, and all that kind of fun stuff that happened that you don't know about. And we'll be lost to obscurity unless somebody talks about them.
Yeah, exactly. I want to say that I think most all of my screen time releases, I've tried to pack them full of. And granted, I didn't use it all by any means, so I got enough for 20,000 more releases of every film as far as footage
Nice.
is concerned. But I know I do give a lot of extras on every DVD, at least when it comes to my films, because I always tend to tell everyone, let's get several documentary cameras following everything around. You go off and follow this crew around, and this one can follow me, or whatever, because I know I'm going to use all this. What I always like to try to do is not only make the movie, but at the same time I'm making the movie, make the making of the movie happening. In other words, so we did this with Death Metal Zombies and Zombie Fight both. Those two films, we had cameras out the wazoo running through every process of both films, knowing I was going to release a 2 hour documentary on the making of each
Smart.
to coincide. And I did that exact thing. I wish I had done that for every film, but we still managed enough extras on Evil Night, Night of the Clown, and several of the others. So they've mostly all have extras. So
I mean,
because yeah, in audio commentary.
I think it was like was a full moon that started when they would release the VHS or whatever, and the VHS would have like at the end would have a little making of
Mm-hmm.
stuff or whatever, but then that was also like for their magazines or their like their catalog, and stuff like that. So it was a good way to sell everything. Then they would put it out. So I think they were like one of the first like low budget companies at least to start. And I believe I read somewhere that Charles Band was the first person, period, to do that. And then other, actual film companies like Paramount and everybody else started taking notice of that. And you
Well,
know,
the one I remember. Sorry, I didn't mean to
oh
interrupt.
no,
Tempe Video, J.R. Bookwalter,
There
mhm.
you
the
go. I was going to say
bee's
Tempe.
nest, bee's nest. That's where I first saw extra things. I think after a movie, I know Charles Band did it too, but I want to say I discovered that concept through them, and I was like, that's really a good idea.
Yeah,
Put stuff after the credits and have extras on your tape. Why
Right.
yeah.
not? You've got the space. Why not use it?
Yeah, exactly. When I discovered DVDs and so because I never watched Laserdiscs, that just wasn't, my family when I was young, my family didn't have Laserdiscs. We didn't, that wasn't something, I think my dad thought it was just not, like feasible or something, or it's too expensive or whatever it was. But we had got a DVD as a kid, and I was like, so I started playing,
Mm.
watching DVDs, and like learning that there's this thing called audio commentary, like you said. There's these things, these behind the scenes, and I was like, and as at that time aspiring filmmaker, I was like, this is my film school, this is what I was going to learn from.
Yes.
Easter eggs. Easter eggs.
These, those are fun.
So now
I'm
you
bi-
have a
I'm
little
big
bit
on those.
you have a little bit more understanding of David the Rock Nelson and how he completely fills every VHS tape and DVD with everything. There's zero free space on any movie you get from him.
Well, I
Nice.
mean, have you heard of him, David the Rock Nelson?
Mm-mm.
So he is a, let's just say he's an original
He's a maverick.
guy. He is a interesting human being. Um, I'm not even quite sure if he's a human being or not, but he's a
Ah, come
very
on.
interesting person. I love him.
He's awesome.
He won't say anything like that, but whatever. He he will he did a movie called Miss Werewolf. We reviewed it. Where at one point, he actually some guy comes up to him and starts talking to him,
In
like,
the
"Hey,
middle of
what
a
are you
shoot.
doing?" In the middle of the shoot, says, "Hey, are you making a movie over here?" And he goes, "Oh, yes." And he leaves the shoot, goes, talks to this guy. You see him talking to the guy about, "Oh, I'm David the Rock Nelson," out of character from his character, and and he left it in the movie. It's in the movie.
Yeah, not at the
And
Nice.
beginning or the end, within the narrative that was being,
yeah,
created right there at the time.
just
That's
it's
cool.
I
well,
loved it.
it's just, it's just terrible editing, but it is what it is. Like it's his style of, like, I'm gonna shoot whatever I want, put it all in, and then you know what I and he'll do takes. Like he'll say the same line over and over again,
You'll see them
and then
all.
you'll see them all, and he does this about 15 minutes of that, and it drove us nuts because we were just like, oh, it was terrible.
Or he'll just decide in the middle of the story or beginning or the end to just talk about his monster movie memorabilia collection because he really likes it and he wants people to know that he's got all this cool stuff. So he'll just start talking about it. It's
Right.
just so amazing. There's no other
so they
one like him.
so that's kind of like TikTok, right? Constant ADD everywhere, all over the place,
Sort of.
random.
I would love to see him on TikTok. David the Rock Nelson, go
TikTok
on
is made for
TikTok.
him.
Yeah,
It sounds like that would be his channel because, like, my daughter watches all that, and every time I go in there, I'm like, Violet, every 3 seconds it changes to something else. You're not going to be able to watch a feature film to save your life. And sure enough, when I've tried to sit her down to watch movies, 20 minutes in, is it almost over, Daddy? I was like, you're not moving until those credits roll.
And he's old fashioned. I mean, shooting in VHS and using two
Still,
VCRs to edit. I mean, still today. I mean, that's
wow.
old school. Yeah,
he
Yeah.
called himself like the Ed Wood of the 90s. He
yeah.
was
You
a
have to check him out
self-described.
sometimes. They're
Yeah.
they're unlike anything else.
I mean, he
Yeah.
was literally such an Ed Wood of the 90s that they actually put him on an Ed Wood, like, bonus feature on one
Oh,
of the
wow.
Ed Wood things, because they really truly believed he tried to be Ed Wood of the 90s at that time. Like he
Nice.
yeah. And I'm wearing my, Bride of the Monster shirt, so you gotta give love to the Ed
Nice.
Wood.
Yay.
I'm sure you're a fan of, like, old school, like, B movies like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So who are your inspirations as a filmmaker?
Well, the only names I cite, because in some of my films it's evident, and some not so much, maybe, would be Lucio Fulci, Dario Argento, George Romero, John Carpenter, and of course Sean Cunningham. So
Nice.
kind of like everything I did in the early days, Evil Knight starting off especially. It's like I wanted to make Friday the 13th style movies, so Evil Knight was the slasher for that reason. But yeah, I loved all those guys primarily for their style of filmmaking, storytelling, and directing, and the lighting specifically with Argento and Fulci. The I guess very colorful palettes like Suspiria and things like
Yeah.
that just really appealed to me, and to me thought, let's take people into, just make surreal stuff going on with these lights. And it doesn't, people will bitch, it's not how it would look. I'm like, well, that's the whole point. We want to saturate you in some bizarre color right now, so shut the fuck up and watch. And enjoy, for God's sake, enjoy instead of picking apart everything. Doing art for art's sake, and really just bringing it out as much as you can. I really thought that Argento and Fulci were kind of the masters of that, making the scenes like almost like looking at a painting, except the painting is happening all the time.
Yeah, especially
Absolutely.
with Suspiria, and that's why
Yeah.
I finally got around to watching the remake, and I don't know, it just didn't capture the same thing that I felt with the original one. I mean, it was better than I expected it to be, but
Hmm.
it's still, it's just you're just not gonna do better. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Than the original.
Yeah, I did see the remake, but I can't remember it anymore. But I always
Well,
remember the original because I saw the
that's
original
the
ton.
problem. It's the
Yeah,
very
exactly. Yeah,
Well,
you always hope for replay value in your stuff, and I don't know how many people get that out of my movies, but a lot of people are just, I've seen it, I don't need to see it again. But
oh,
then there's the
well,
collectors and the fans; they want to see it again and again.
at least with as far as Evil Night goes, it's not just a slasher movie because at the end
It
you've got
turns
your
into a,
final
yeah, I know.
girl, yeah, who does this zombie thing, and that was, I remember when I first saw that I was completely thrown for a loop. You never
Good,
see something like that, so
good.
yeah, that was pretty interesting. Can you talk a little bit about how that idea came to you?
Well, it was the whole point of let's get revenge on Jimmy time because Jimmy's done all these crimes. And being a big fan of Friday the 13th films and George Romero zombie films, I'm like, how can we combine zombies into this movie? Oh, well, Jimmy could bring the dead back to life. Why not? It just popped right into my head. I was like,
Mhm.
mix up some potions and we'll do the little cheesy, I drink a potion and suddenly, wham, alakazam, we have zombies. And in that zany kind of zapped style, really. Again, zapped because pouring potions gives you telekinesis, of course. So it may as well raise the dead too. And
Sure.
that was kind of the thought. It just was a real quick. I want to put zombies in here. Oh yeah, we can do this, and it just came. So I was like, all right. So we kind of can, and hopefully it will, like you said, catch people off guard to where they're not expecting that type of revenge.
Right, right, right. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, somehow we ended up getting, Night of the Living Dead, mixed with Carrie, or mixed with Toxic Avenger. Your traditional nerd gets picked on, needs to have revenge, but all of a sudden we got zombies. So that was pretty inventive, I thought.
Slaughter High.
Slaughter High. That's right, 1986.
I
yeah.
want to say that that movie is probably the reason I did Evil Night because I had seen it a bunch of times and thought, man, I just love this film. It is the Manfredini score, of course, really helped it along, but it felt like, wow, it feels like a Friday film, but yet it's
Yeah.
got this cool Jester Mass killer and you have those bells jingling in the distance. That
Hmm.
shit's creepy. I was like, this movie is just rad. Loved it.
I just
And I thought, I want to make a movie like that. So that's how Evil Night started.
I just heard that like because we did Rebecca Reinhardt and I have a show called 80s horror films and we reviewed Slaughter High and
Uh,
we were talking and I watched because Vestron I guess released it or I think it was
yep,
Vestron. Yeah,
it
Vestron
is.
released it and they had a like an interview with the director and the director was talking about how they brought it to like Cannes, film festival and they were scared to death that like nobody would be interested in this movie 'cause nobody had ever heard of it, right? So they go and screen it and people start leaving and they're like, oh no, right? Well, no, people were leaving. He finds out people are leaving because they wanted to buy the movie. They wanted to have the movie so that they could, because they liked it so much. They were liking what they saw. They wanted to get the VHS copies that were out being sold out there. And
Mhm.
then they would go and watch other movies and then, be able, because there's so many movies playing at Can at one
Yeah, oh, yeah.
time.
Yeah, you
And
can't
so,
sit there and watch them all the way to the
yeah,
end. If you find one you like, you watch, you make that decision, you go, you buy the movie, then you get to the next movie.
right. And that I think was really cool because he was so scared at one point. And it is a cult, like, it's a cult film, a lot of
Mhm.
I hadn't even heard of it until like sort of recently, or whatever. So then I
Remember when
looked
in the
into it.
theaters?
Yeah. I wasn't in 86, I was 4. So there would be no, like I would not be able to go to that
High
movie at that
school.
time and and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
So, Todd, what about the mask itself? Where did that come from?
The Jimmy mask.
Yeah.
So that was Morris Costumes, 1989, I believe I
Wow.
purchased. And I wanted to get, several more, but even just a year after I got that one, discontinued. I'm like, oh, good Lord have mercy. I've got the only one left. No one can get them anymore. I've never found another one like it. And I'm like, man.
So
So I'm holding on to one.
are you saying people should buy more than one if you're gonna buy one for your film, buy more than one just in case?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did that with Death Metal Zombies. I bought like 6 or 7 of the Nixon mask killer masks, and we were able to use the same ones from Death Metal Zombies in Zombified, since the same killer, is used in that film. So still got, I think, 4 of them. A couple of them we set on fire and burnt up for the final shot in Zombified, because it ends with the math melting. So we burnt up a couple, but I still got the original 4. So yeah, if you're going to make a film, buy multiples, because you never know. You could also damage something and have continuity issues. So may as well have more than one as a backup.
So death metal zombies, that's no, that wasn't inspired by hard rock zombies, was it?
I will say this: it was an idea that came from seeing that movie, because I saw that movie and I love weird, nonsensical. The stranger, the cooler, and the more original, the better.
That's
So
weird
I
and
thought, I was like,
nonsensical.
this thing is so nonsensically bizarre and fascinating at the same time. I can't quit watching it, because I love camp. Like back then, my favorite kind of movies were the intentionally campy movies. That's why a lot of the early stuff I did was intentionally campy. People be like, "Hey, he's trying to make a serious film falling on his face." No, dude, we're like imitating Linnea Quigley films, and we're imitating, these cheesy, intentionally cheesy, fun, campy movies. And I thought that was, one of those that just kind of pushed us that direction.
Oh yeah, we've covered that on our show because it's another one of those movies that is just so over the top and bizarre and weird and wacky and a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
So basically, what happened is I thought, and then Elise and I were married at the time, and I think, saw it together, and we were like, "Man, this is one of the weirdest ones we've seen yet." And I go, "Well, you know what? I've always wanted to do a zombie film. We know it's inevitable." And I just immediately go, "How about death metal zombies?" Right away, because I was listening to lots of death metal at that time, and I was like, "This could be the first horror film that you know pushes and promotes death metal." So we went ahead and I started writing that. I think I wrote it in 4 days or something. And Relapse Records, bless their hearts, sent us like, I don't know, 80 CDs and said, "You can use whatever you want, royalty free." And I was like, "Holy shit!"
How did you
So
get that? How did that happen?
I called the guys up on the phone and said, "I'm Todd. I'm making this. I live in Texas, and I'm making a horror film called Death Metal Zombies. I'm looking for some music. Is that anything we could talk about doing? I mean, do you have any cheap artists or bands? Because we don't have a lot of money." And next thing I know, the dude was just like talking to me like his best friend, and that's how I am with everybody too. I was like, we're just chilling and talking and laughing, and oh man, I'll send you whatever you want. I was like, holy shit. He's like, "I
That's
love the
awesome.
fact that you want to make a film promoting death metal." So he was all about the promotion of it. And then he just said, "Just take it." Because the label, I think, was just starting to grow at that point. So the publicity, would help them. And
That's
of course,
awesome.
in turn, give me a soundtrack.
That's
So
great.
yeah, I still have the letters and the phone conversations with them as well. Bill Yerkowitz was the guy I talked to at the time. He may not even be around there anymore. Who knows? But he was cool.
That's
And he was a guy.
awesome.
And Sean McKnight was the other guy that I think I talked to the most. So those guys basically hooked me up and sent me all those artists that are in there. So
So I can see that there's kind of a bit of an archivist in you as well, because it seems like you save and you record a lot of stuff. That's really good. It's so great that you have all this, because who the heck knows what's going to happen later on, or if your memory is there, if you just forget something, you've got it all there ready. You don't have to worry about it.
well, and you just hit the I guess the epic pinpoint of my life there, Paul. It's all done with intention of making a lifelong film covering my entire real life, sandwiching into a horror film. And I've already done this with skateboarding. And as you know, I don't skate anymore, but my final film was 34 years in the making and literally covers my birth, my life. I've taken excerpts of everything that's been filmed throughout my whole life and used it all throughout that to tell its story and how I went on this journey to invent the most tricks to reach the ultimate level. The injury, I'm now in a wheelchair. The only way I can skate is sitting in a wheelchair, yada, yada, yada. The culmination of a life's work. Well, I've also done that with Stage Dive, and that's the documentary that's coming. And then the third one will be my life horror film, which will cover my entire life. The fact that I have actually made all these films, that gives me leeway to use, snippets of anything I've ever done, because it's based on my real life, but I want to tell it in a you know, filmmaking style story, kind of like, I want to say like the Wonder Years style, with like some of that narration going on and then
Hmm.
going into those stories and those moments, however gripping they become or whatever they lead to in this young filmmaker's path. But basically, to follow my trek from, here's a guy who's just a Friday the 13th obsessed fan with a dream, thinking if I can make this one feature film of Part 13, I can prove to myself I can make movies for the rest of my life. Off and running. Then he's in this band, and we do all these albums, and he has this pro skate career. So I want to try, you know, and all the media and the publicity and the press. Just I want to use everything that I've ever garnered, accomplished, and achieved in this one film. Which, you know, I don't know when it's going to come out because I'm 51 now, and I imagine it'll probably be another 20 years. I hope I'm still alive to edit it by that time.
Well, that's interesting. I mean,
It'll be a life's work.
most artists hope they get somebody to do their biography, but you've already made three of your own.
Yeah, this will be the third one, and
It's great.
it's still every day is in the making. You know, whatever I pick up and film with my iPhone, you know, that's potential
And
footage.
best
And
thing of all, you completely control everything. You don't have to worry about somebody putting you in the wrong
yeah,
light or getting information incorrect.
yes, it'll be 100% a real life lived, and everything from the real personal life stories and the conflicts of life that we go through, relationships, marriages, divorces. Those are parts of real life, but I've got my entire life recorded. I've got things that no one's ever going to hear because they'll get me in trouble. But, you know, again, I have it all. Do I want to take the chance? Well, if I could get enough money to cover my ass, I might put out some of that stuff. But, you know, again, I've got a full real life, and some of it's really intense, and some of it's really funny, and some of it's like, you know, this relentless pursuit to take movies, music, and skateboarding to the ultimate original levels, I guess you would say.
So it's fair to call you a documentarian as well.
I guess at this point, since I've already done the skateboarding documentary that was 34 years in the making, that came out in 2018, started in 1984, finished in 2018. It came and went, and then the stage dive one was filmed from 1996 and finished editing it last year. So however many years that is, then there's this one, which is my life in the making still. So
Ongoing.
yeah, ongoing until I decide I've got enough to do this now. My
That's
biggest problem,
awesome.
dude, is figuring out what the heck am I going to edit? What am I going to pull
Hmm.
from having I mean, the amount of footage I have is so mind blowing and overwhelming. I don't know what to do.
You may have to do a trilogy, break it up
ah,
by years.
I
The
thought
early
of
years
uh,
to the
Right.
wonder years to the you know
yep, the
to
Wonder Years
now.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they're all the Wonder Years.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's like you being an auto biopic, which you don't really see that much of. You see,
Mm-mm.
like as Paul said, like the Disaster Artist was written originally by Greg Sestero, but then later, adapted in a movie by James Franco, or whatever. So, there's that. And then but you're also, it sounds like you could also make a tell-all video, a tell-all movie, which I don't know if like, yeah, I don't think you'd want to go down that route or not, but
Right.
that's interesting because like looking at your life, you have things, interesting stuff like unfortunately you're divorced, but you've lived this life, you've done a lot of stuff, your life has, kind of accumulated into this to the stuff and like things that like people don't do in 30 years or whatever, or more, with their life. You've done so
You've
much.
lived. You really
Yeah.
have.
And you
Well, and
continue.
yeah, and I'm a kid forever, so the age number assigned to me does not match anywhere near with me, period. I'm still exactly that same 18-year-old kid that made part 13. Not one damn thing has changed. And that's not the reason I'm three times divorced, by the way, but I am a kid at heart forever. So that being said, that energy is always there, and it never relates to the numbers. And like I see the gray hairs, I'm like, oh fuck that, I'll dye them away because I'm not going to, you know, I'm just
Yeah.
not going to go there. I'm staying young as long as I can in one way or another, damn it, because that's what
Same
invigorates
here.
me to keep going and to keep doing this and never give up, keep pursuing the dream, basically.
Yeah,
I'm same there, same thing. Right there with you. I totally understand. They won't, stop me until I've collapsed dead, and they have to put me
Mm-hmm.
in my coffin, nail it shut.
Yep. Yep. Keep pursuing your dreams, whatever they are. There's not enough positivity in this world, as we all know. There's so much hate. It just makes my head blow up like that scene in Scanners. And it's just, why can't everyone get along? So let's put positive creative energy out in this world and build each other up instead of hating each other just because they like President Trump or Biden or whatever.
oh,
That the hot topics of constant aggression and hate everywhere. I'm like, who cares? Who likes this and that? It'd be just as bad for me to go, well, I like Friday the 13th. Well, I like Halloween. Fuck you. I hate your guts. It's just that dumb. Who cares
yeah,
what someone likes or doesn't like? You
yeah.
shouldn't force your opinion on someone else. If you're doing that, then you're just a bully, really.
Exactly. And I agree 100% is like that stuff with political opinions, which no, like I remember, like 10 years ago, it wasn't even like if people were doing it, it just wasn't as prominent now or whatever. And it's sort of
Social
annoying.
media.
Yeah,
That's
social
what's
media
Ah,
has kind of sort of ruined that. I mean, to even go back to like the MySpace days, I'm sure we all know those days. It didn't seem like that was a thing, you know. It was people
right.
I had
still
my
innocent then.
friends. Yeah, I had my friends and I would chat and I would bring them up on my old podcast that I would have and everybody got along and no I didn't hear anybody talk shit about anybody else and it seemed like whatever. Nowadays it's a little different. There the only thing I kind of agree with that stuff is like there are there are some, and really it's about, like we choose, we should choose not, if we don't want to watch something, we don't have to, right? Like
Hmm.
us personally. And we don't have
Yeah.
to shit on them for going out and making the movies. We just, but sometimes there are just some filmmakers who just keep making movies and they're just not good at all. Like your movies since you were a freaking kid, when you were young, are all good. You make good movies. You know how to handle it. And when we watch some people who just never grow as artists, and everything, I kind of get sad like a little bit. And then I kind of just want to get away from them, because I feel like they're not especially if they won't take criticism and stuff. And I'm sure you've gotten a lot of
Yeah.
criticism and stuff that you probably didn't even want, you know?
Yeah.
And
I never ask for anyone's opinion at any point, but they will give it in droves, I might add. And I'm
right.
like, well, that's all fine and good, but ultimately what I did intentionally for the most part. I mean, I can look back now and see some sloppy editing or some effects that I'm like, oh, if I could do it again. But whatever, it was the times. I'm okay with that. Maybe it just adds more to the campiness of it at this point. So I'm okay. I'm cool with whatever I've done. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not running and hiding in shame from anything. I think people should just do whatever you feel you're capable of at that time. And if you look back later and laugh, well, then that means maybe you've grown or you've learned something new, or you have a sense of humor about it. Whatever it is, just keep it positive.
Yeah.
Don't have a negative outlook on it.
I do have one last question that I wanted to ask you. You said that you're in Texas now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you have filmed most of your stuff? And if
Mm-hmm.
so, how has living in Texas sort of informed the way that you go about making your films, if at all?
Well, it did when I made something like Zombified. That turned out to be a big film. So at that time, I had already done a lot of movies. And so my name, I guess, was kind of nuts. And of course, we're making this in Houston, 9 million population, by the way. So huge population. And I lived there my entire life, pretty much. Now I'm in the country with 3,000 population and have been
Mm.
for almost a decade. So way different. I am the film scene. There is no film scene. I am it. So surprise. Anyways, but back then the publicity, it was easier to obtain because I knew so many faces and people. And after having done it in a city like that, word eventually travels. So we could get, Fox with no problem would show up and do reports on whatever films that we were doing and stuff like that. So publicity in Houston was very helpful. Making films in big city, being that connected with people, but again, out here, there's nothing. Period. So, and I have not directed a film, a feature horror film since Zombified. So it's been over a decade because I'm focusing on all these other things like the stage dive documentary and releasing other movies, yada yada. But yeah, the film scene here, I'm in it, so there's no help out here. So it's just me. But I don't look to local at any point. I mean, we're dealing with the world through the web. So that's my audience, is the people in whatever city, state, or country that are buying the films from Screen Times.
Mm.
How close are you to Dripping Springs, Texas, where Barn of the Blood Llama was made?
I'm not familiar with where Springs is. Is that
Dripping
where's that?
Springs. I couldn't tell you. Texas is a big place.
Well, I'm about an hour outside of Dallas. I don't know if that helps. I'm not sure with Springs.
I think
I don't
Dripping
know.
Springs is closer to Austin.
Okay, I know Austin's about a 3 hour trip.
Okay.
So it's probably somewhere within a few hours.
I don't know if you've ever seen Barn of the Blood Llama, but if you get the chance, I think you should. It's the other movie that I really associate with Texas.
Really? So Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Barn of the Blood Llama?
There you go. They're very similar in a
No,
weird
they're
way.
not. Don't listen to him. No,
Llama saw
Texas
llama,
Chainsaw is a good movie.
a
You know,
llama skin mask, though.
There you go.
that would be a good idea.
These are llamas that spit radioactive cud, as they do.
They could grind humans into llama beans.
Hmm. There's a lot of llamas in Texas, apparently. So I did not know that till I saw the movie.
You know what's interesting here after having lived in the city my whole life and moving out to the country is that you come out of Walmart and there's a pasture with cows in front of you.
Yay.
Literally.
Paul would
Pretty wild.
I
Yeah.
You
We can
know,
get the milk
definitely
either
knew.
here or at Walmart. What an utter disaster.
Yeah, and you guys got the big ones too, the Longhorns and the Watusis. Those you don't want to mess with those cows. Those are major
Right.
cows.
Uh-huh.
that's funny.
So,
and that's the only reason Paul would want to go out to Texas, honestly. It's to see the cows or whatever. But
Maybe not the only, but it would be a major one. Yeah.
um,
mhm.
we went out to when we went out. Actually, were we in Texas? Um, or we passed through
We
Texas.
drove through it.
Yeah, we drove through it because we went to New
Tulsa.
Mexico.
We
Yeah,
stayed in Tulsa. We drove through it.
and then we drove through it and then went to New Mexico for Albuquerque. But whatever. Anyway, we went through that stuff because I had to go to when I moved to LA for like a year. We drove down there together and
We
everything.
went through Amarillo, which is like, the home of the tumbleweeds.
I think we saw a few of those.
We did.
So yeah, I was my first time ever seeing Tumbleweed.
I
It was
wanted to make
amazing.
a horror movie about tumbleweeds that attacked and ate people.
And nobody's done that yet. Um, it could be called Tumble Feeds.
I was trying to come up with a name. It's like Tumbleweed Terror or
There you go.
Yeah,
I don't,
You know me, I'm all about ideas. I just can't follow through with them.
uh,
it's
that's
harder.
always a dilemma.
Yeah, and so real quick, I guess my last question before we're probably gonna wrap this up and everything, is you are you're an indie filmmaker. So the first thing you do is you come up with an idea and then you go about executing it and everything. How as a filmmaker, like do you storyboard? Do you outline? What do you do for that?
Nothing.
Nothing?
I lit well, it works the same way it does with my songs. I can literally just like sit down and pick up my guitar and an original song from beginning to end, ad lib, boom, bam, doom, done. Record that as a scratch idea. Then I sit down and I go, okay, now let's record each piece and section. And about a week later, after really putting the time and getting all those instruments nailed, I put together the vision that I originally heard in my head. But it starts with that scratch track. So I would say, based on that, I kind of just formulate ideas in my head and they just kind of flow out. Like when I sat down to write Death Metal Zombies, I literally just sat there and like was envisioning the movie happening in my head and just sit there and I could just keep right on typing without a break for hours because the movie kept playing. In fact, it was going faster than my could type. So
Huh.
I would eventually, yeah. So it's just
You
a
have to rewind.
constant, yeah, exactly. Or pause, TiVo, pause. TiVo, who remembers TiVo?
I never had one, but I remember it.
Yeah. So if only we could pause life. That's what I've always said. But yeah, everything just I can't stop the ideas, the music, the movies, the thoughts. I've got 20 million horror films I'll never make because I've got too many ideas and only so much life to execute them all. So to me, that's a problem is not being able to have enough time to do them all. I wish I could do them all, but
Yeah.
you got to be selective and be realistic and do what you can. So otherwise, I would have directed about 150 more films by now. But
People are
Oh,
living into their 80s these days, maybe even 90s. You still got another 40 years, maybe at least.
yeah, my grandmother lived to be 94. My
Oh,
father's 88 and still
outstanding.
going. So, yeah, let's hope for longevity here so I can do more films and make more albums.
There you go.
yep.
That's the goal.
So you said you pretty much are just doing the rockumentary kind of thing and doing the like you're making these little documentary stuff and everything right now. And you don't have
Yeah.
any plans to do a another like feature horror film in the works?
Well, I've wanted to for the last 10 years, but everything has taken all the time that it has, and I haven't been able to, again, just like what I just said, can't reach. It's like I keep reaching for it, but it gets further and further because I'm signing new films for distribution all the time. And when I sign films, okay, everything's got to shift over to we got to develop the films and get them out, get them on streaming, make the artwork, the whole process. And it takes a long time. So then, there goes everything on hiatus again. But what I had been working on over the last few years was the stage dive documentary, like I said, and it is now done. So now I'm just kind of working on releasing new films. Got a whole bunch of films from Phil Herman, good buddy of mine
Nice.
from New York. Yeah, his first film ever, Burglar from Hell, I believe, started off with Cemetery Cinema. So he and I have a very long history. So I'm going to release some of his old school '90s things that he's got and get started with that here. So I'm working on that right now. But after that, probably finish up my albums that I'm working on. I've got two full length solo albums that I have yet to finish
Nice.
up. I'd like to do music videos, put them out there and promote it. So my focus is going to go back on the music for a little bit. And then once I've had a feel for that, maybe try and get back to the horror. And my first thought for not having anyone out and around is I kind of wanted to go back to I don't know if y'all saw Frightmares, but I did, an anthology of stories there.
Mm.
And in two of them, I was the only actor. And I thought, well, I pulled that off then, and my knowledge is way greater now. So I might remake one of my own mannequin horror films, which was a creepy
Nice.
mannequin horror story that I did by
Nice.
myself in Frightmares. And I thought of maybe doing that for a feature film if I can pull that off. We'll see.
That would be like Mannequin, the movie, but horror.
Well, Tourist Trap is where it all comes from.
That's
Yeah, 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 yeah.
that's true.
That's a fun movie.
Got
That
obsessed with that one. Yeah, that movie is so wildly out there. And again, the telekinesis from Evil Knight. Again, it's there in Tourist Trap. So I was like, oh, this dude's like telekinetically moving mannequins and stuff. That is badass. So I've always wanted to make a full length mannequin horror movie ever since. And the closest I've come was my 30-minute version back in 1998 on Frightmares, which is, I think, the third story is called They're Alive. And that's the mannequin one. So I'm wanting to do maybe a full 90-minute of that if I can, if
I
God willing,
I
whatever.
once had a nightmare about being chased by vampire mannequins that were chasing me around the store, and they
Ooh,
had
that's
little fangs that popped out, and they all were dressed in their different clothes. Like you had women ones, and you had
yeah,
men ones and kid ones, and they all had horrible fangs, and they chased me all over the place, and they chased me up an
sexy,
escalator.
sexy red velvety lingerie, Victoria's Secret style, or what?
No, it was just like Sears, the softer side of Sears
Ah,
kind of stuff.
that's even worse.
But they
well, please,
chased
at least let it be 80s years, not 70s.
right. No, but they chased me up an escalator, and somebody was that there. Somebody get that kid off the escalator from Mallrats, and yeah,
Ah,
that's how my mind works.
nice.
Scary.
Mhm.
You don't want to go in there, you know.
No
There's cows and crazy
weirdness.
Well,
crazy
you don't want to go
animals.
in mine. It's a constant collision of thoughts. Like that scene in Scanners when what's his name? Lawrence Zane is sitting on the bed and he hears all those voices driving him mad before they give him that ephemeral shot. That's constantly. I need ephemeral.
Nice.
So I'm guessing you're a big Scanners fan. You've already dropped references to it twice, so that's awesome.
Yes,
Oh,
again, the telekinesis thing. Oh, and I said my head exploded like the scene in Scanners. Boy, I have referenced that one tonight
Yeah,
because
but it's
it's in the
great. It's a
cards.
great movie. It's
yeah,
fantastic.
get
It
the Criterion version. It's amazing.
Oh, I have it. I have it, and I've seen it a lot of times, and I've read the book 4 times. I still have the original paperback.
Ooh, I don't
Love the
have the book.
paperback.
Do you have all
Yeah,
the other movies too, like Scanner Cops and other stuff like that?
I got one, two, three, and Scanner Cop 1, but I think there was a Scanner Cop 2, right?
I think so.
And was there anything else after
Huh?
that?
I don't know. There's been other movies that have been like sort of either they've like ripped it off or they've kind of had a similar
There was
thing.
one called The Mind's Eye.
That was what I was thinking of, which it wasn't like a rip off, I don't think, but it was like similar,
Yeah,
and I love that. And I
yeah, no,
actually
it's a good one.
I messaged the guy that was in it and I was like, "Oh my God, you did such a great job." Like, didn't even realize he was like a friend of mine on Facebook, and then found that out and I was like, "Holy crap, this is awesome." And
Oh,
let him
cool.
know. Yeah, he was awesome. And
I always thought it'd make a great HBO series, like a TV show, where it's a
Yeah.
world of scanner people that are intermixed with everybody else, and how they would, function, and how they would do things and cause problems, and you'd have the good ones and the bad ones, etc., and then the
Hell
normies.
yeah. Yes. There was I was talking about Westworld earlier. There was a TV series called Beyond Westworld that sadly did not last, but man, I still to this day love that. I was like, I wish they'd bring Beyond Westworld back. That was cool.
Mm.
and
It
then
was a
then
little
they do
too
like
campy, but yeah,
then they
fun.
do a newer one like for HBO or something.
Yeah, I haven't seen a single one of those newer ones at all.
Yeah, I've heard they're pretty good. I mean, I've heard that they
I
weren't
did
that
too.
bad. So,
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I
I just haven't
definitely
had
check that
time.
out.
And there was Future World. I think. I think that came after Westworld.
I have that film. I have an original in beta on that one.
Nice.
To Betamax.
Beta, dude, I love Beta. My parents would, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not, but they would copy from VHS to Beta all the time. So we would have, and that it's funny that warning would come up on, and even in
FBI,
FBI warning
Yeah,
would come on and
they're
everything.
gonna
And
catch
yeah,
you.
they didn't
Interpol.
care. They didn't care. But
No, as long as it's in your own home, nobody cares.
Well,
It's the
yeah, I'm
mass
not
production.
selling. I'm not going to like conventions and selling them or something, which
Yeah,
some people
exactly.
would, but I
Yeah.
mean, I guess I see a lot of people at conventions these days selling like uh was it DVDs of movies that they own. So I mean, I don't understand
Uh,
why that
I
would
mean,
be a
at
problem.
least you own it. It's not like nowadays where you stream stuff and then you're just borrowing the digital until the company decides to take it away from you.
Yeah. It happens a
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
lot.
and streaming is so tough because so many stations pay very little. You're literally like making pennies on this one and that one. A couple of them actually pay decently, but most of them is like, yeah, we're already struggling here, so let's make this a little better system somehow. I don't know what they can do, but
Yeah, they are working on that because SAG and all these other companies and everything want to make, streaming actually make people money, right? Like and
mhm,
everything. And they're trying to figure it out because right now the studios in Hollywood and the distribution companies in some of these distribution companies are actually making more money on it than the people who are putting it out. And these people, they're lucky if they make, some good money back from it. So kind of
mhm.
sucks, but they're trying to work something out so that streaming is because streaming is what like the next,
It's
thing,
convenient.
you
Yeah.
know. It
Do you
is.
have anything anywhere like on Tubi or anything?
I do.
Yeah.
Death Metal Zombies and Zombie Fight both are on Tubi. They
Okay.
rejected they rejected everything else that I directed.
Wow. I'm
Why?
Yeah,
surprised.
and well, looking at it from a picture quality standpoint, I could probably understand on, Evil Knight had some rough spots and maybe some glitches or static or whatever it was. But, some of them that they turned down, I'm like, what the hell? Why? I don't get this. And in the films that I distribute, I got a lot of filmmakers into my catalog. They'll take some of the films and like they rejected one recently after we waited and waited and waited. Like 2 years later, we find out they've rejected it. And I'm like, I was so sure because the quality of this sucker was like 8K. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? They turned it down. I was for sure it was going to get picked up.
Seems
I
random.
don't know what I don't know what it is.
Well, I know like was it Axmas was on Tubi, right? You put
Yeah,
that
it's
on
still
there.
there.
Yeah, and that's our buddy John Ward who comes on our show all the time and has
Yeah,
his own
John's cool.
channel. And yeah, we love John. And so when I had heard Axmas was, getting distributed by you, I thought that was freaking awesome because like they're shorts and a lot of times,
Yeah,
people don't distribute shorts, because
exactly. And I won't say no to anything usually. That's kind of how I'm very open minded. I think everyone should be that way. Give every John Doe a chance. Give everyone their moment, and let's see. Because I mean, you never know what's going to take off or resonate with people. So I was like, shorts, sure, why not? Why not release a theory this short?
Yeah,
So I
we
keep.
love shorts. We have a show where we review shorts because it's
Mhm.
just
because
sadly
nobody else
overlooked.
does,
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
some people just like a quick bang, bang, bam, in 30 minutes, and that's
And
the reason I made a few anthologies back.
there are some ideas that work better as a short than to
Yeah,
be, padded out and padded out and padded out to reach some kind of length that it's supposed to be, you know.
right.
So
A
just
yeah, like
short vision. A short vision is a complete vision just as much as a full length,
yeah,
you know.
short stories are as just as valid as novels.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, there are some
absolutely.
that could work as features, but most of the time, if it's a short, they came up with an idea that is that is short, that like they wanted to, we've done a bunch of shorts ourselves, or whatever. I've got we're trying to finish up Scream Queen Campfire, and
Oh,
that's,
cool.
a bunch of, an anthology of shorts as like your like the you even did I think one called Horoscope, which was like a anthology film, or
Oh,
what.
cool.
Yeah.
So you
Haven't
done a
My
seen that.
first,
bunch. Was that?
yeah, that was my first one. It was 1994 Horoscope, and that was just done real quick and fast. We were like, let's see how quickly we can make a feature movie. Can we do one really quick and just make a few shorts?
And
So
he's
that was an experiment.
And he's done a was it the horror workout, with your wife, your
Yeah,
former wife,
Nice.
Lisa.
Deadly workout. Hmm.
Yeah, so kind of like Linnea Quigley's, thing that she
Hey.
It,
did.
well, that was very intentional because we were huge fans of Linnea, and we had just started. We made Evil Knight and Demon Dolls, and those were the only two movies I had. I may have just started Cemetery Cinema around that time. And in '93, Fangoria Weekend of Horrors comes to Dallas. We're living in Houston. We're driving up there, of course. We met Linnea. We had lunch with her, and she was so cool. We had lunch with Gunnar Hansen. He
Oh,
was so
Nice.
we
I'm
got to hang
jealous of
and
that.
there, yeah, the whole situation was like golden because sadly very poor turnout. But I got one-on-one time with everybody: Kane Hodder, Don Shanks, Doug Bradley. So Linnea takes the stage, and now that we've already hung out and talked, and had dinner after she's done with her signings, she calls my wife up on stage with her, and I'm like, wow, how cool is that? Because
Yeah.
I was wanting to do the Scream Queen thing with Lisa. I was like, man, we love Linnea so much. What if we could like follow in their shoes? Because she really inspired us. So I wanted to make campy movies and have like my little Scream Queen girl, and that turned out to be Lisa. She was all for it. She wanted to be like someone like Linnea have her own style, but Linnea was her inspiration. So we hung out with her quite a bit back in the day and always intended to do a movie with Linnea, and that never happened either, sadly. But
Uh,
great times nonetheless, and I still have all the video footage of
Eh,
that show as well.
we need to find our little scream queens. That's our missing link,
Well,
right there.
and you can bring. I mean, Linnea's still working. Next movie you can make that happen. Or whatever if you. if you feel like it, for your next movie, that would be awesome to have Linnea in it, even if it's a small little cameo, because
Yeah.
you said you're a little close to Dallas, so I'm sure you go to like Texas Frightmare, right?
I actually haven't been able to go the last many years. There's always been
Oh,
something preceding it. Yeah. I went to it before I moved up here, ironically. We had a table for Zombified, and that was in 2011 or 12, and I have all the footage of that still. But
shit. If it
I
was
haven't been.
2011, I might have seen you.
That's very possible. We had a table there.
I was there
Let's
that year and I was
I think
running
I,
around.
yeah, I think Clint Howard was sitting across from us because he kept ogling
Nice.
my second wife. He was ogling her constantly.
Is that the year like Brian Austin Green was there?
I don't remember.
What
Okay,
was
Is
he
that
offering
is that
ice cream?
peanut butter ripple? My favorite.
That's
Don't
Oh,
get
funny.
me started on impressions, dude.
it's
Oh,
it's funny because I've never actually seen Ice Cream Man. I've heard of it and I
really?
know all
Oh,
about
it's
it, but
ridiculous.
I've never seen it.
It,
I just
it's fun.
So much fun. It's so
I
ridiculous.
I showed it to my daughter last year. She watched it with me, and she every now and then we'll be somewhere, and she'll point to the ice cream and go, "Do the ice cream man voice, Daddy."
Hmm,
And
that's
I'll do my
awesome.
little thing. What kind of flavor would you like today, little girl?
Well, maybe we should cover that on our show, and maybe we should bring Todd on as a special guest, and we could all do the movie. That would be great for the podcast.
We could review that. I mean, if you're up for that at some point, I would definitely be down for that. You know.
Yeah, haven't seen it since last year.
Jeez. Yeah, it's been an whole year. Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's
I
it
try.
sounds like you need to
Try
watch
to
it
watch.
again.
Yeah, I try to I watch this my favorite stuff. I watch over and over and over, and there's just so many movies and so little time, as you know. And nowadays, movie watching doesn't happen for me like it used to. Like I used to could sit down and watch a movie, but now I'm constantly having. I have to work almost all the time. Like right now, I'm going to show with you guys. This is great for me because I'm actually able to sit here and focus on this thing here now. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
movies are background. They're on the screen so that I can work and work and glance over and see my favorite scene. Oh, now back to work and go, ha ha ha, I remember that line, back to work. So I don't get the enjoyment anymore of sitting and having popcorn or whatever. So me and my daughter have tried to make this a rule now to get back to watching movies. So she's 9 years old now.
Oh,
Just showed her for April Fool's Day of my every year of my life. I bring out the movie April Fool's Day. So she just saw it for the first time ever, and she freaking loved it. And she said the ending was the best when the clown winked at her. She loved that. So she really enjoyed that one. And I also showed her Killer Party, which was originally called April Fool's, but they had to change the title because of April Fool's Day. Killer Party, great movie.
nice, nice.
Love that one. Have you
Well,
guys seen that one?
I highly
No.
recommend Roller Gator as a movie that you could share with your kid. It's made for
Roll it.
kids. Roller
Nice.
Gator. Yep, little purple plastic wrapping alligator. It's pretty ridiculous, and there's lots of skating in it
Oh, cool. That sounds like something she'd love. I mean, we've
And
watched
skateboarding. And
and
skateboarding.
yeah,
skateboarding. Yep.
Yeah.
we've watched Killer Sofa.
Yes, love that movie.
Yes.
Yeah, very fun. And there's one from the 70s called Deathbed or The Bed That Eats.
Bed,
Oh,
bed that
yes,
eats. Yep,
deathbed.
yep,
So bizarre.
I
yep.
think
Oh man.
Danny Draven remade it or something because he
Did
did
he?
one. He did. I don't know if it was a remake, but he did one called Deathbed as well. That was about a bed that killed people or whatever.
Attack of the Killer Refrigerator.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
that's a good one too.
Or
That,
you
that
could show her Llamageddon.
Or even Attack of the Killer Donuts. We did that earlier.
I
Yep.
was about to say Killer Donuts or whatever it
Yep,
was.
that
Yeah.
was so much fun.
Yes.
Well, she's big with her obsession is Five Nights at Freddy's. That's all like her room.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Her room
yeah.
is decked out in it. Her school backpack. She's got the jackets. She
And she
loves
plays
Five
the
Nights.
game, right?
Yeah,
Sounds
Yeah.
like you're
So
raising her right.
but but she just got the game this Christmas. She was already a huge fan, and we never had the games because we never had a Nintendo Switch. But Santa brought us one this year, so
oh.
we got that and Friday the 13th. Which I swear to God, did I just not read that they canceled the Friday the 13th game?
Okay, so that could have been an April Fool's gag. I'd look into it if I were you because there
Well,
was
I
a
don't know.
April Fools. It did, I think, happen around April 1st that they announced that. So I think it might
Well,
have
but
been.
I looked again today, and I swear there was like a bunch of different sites saying that the game or the company that put it out, which is called Gun or something. I wasn't even aware, but I saw the logo. I was like, oh, okay. They said that they lost the rights, so the game is going to cease to function after December 31st of this year. And I was like, no way. And they're
Hmm.
like, they're selling them for $4.99 now, and I'm like, huh. So I don't know if that's real or what.
I
That was
don't know.
confusing. I saw it a bunch of times. I'm like, is this real?
Okay, it might be. I don't know. I just
I don't know
remember
either.
people freaking out because, and then saying, "Oh, it's got to be an April Fool's gag," because they announced it like on April 1st, that happened, and
Okay.
I was like, that's weird. But if you're saying they're still saying that, and there's still news articles about it that are actually, you
I don't know
know,
if they're new articles. They might be from, the other day.
Yeah, maybe they
yeah,
got fooled. Who knows?
I don't know. I'd be
So
careful
so
because,
far, I just don't know. I was just curious if y'all heard or knew anything because we were talking about how Friday the 13th, like, don't touch that series, because they'll
hmm
get mad. Like, then I saw that, so I was like, oh no, because I did read something about, and I don't know if this is true, but some like fans made a mod of it and it spent years making it, and they said no, you can't release it, so it just got shut down or something.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
think
Actually,
that's where I think that's what I had read and kind of where I was at with it all.
I don't know if you remember the TV show
Oh
Friday
yes,
the 13th. It had really nothing to do with Friday the
Yeah.
13th whatsoever. But,
Probably pissed Paul
great.
off, I thought, because,
well,
Paul hates
I
that
loved
kind
the
of stuff.
concept of it and I wanted to remake that. Remember, Moody, we talked about that. I
Yeah.
always thought that had a great potential as a show.
Yes, it is. I love that series. It doesn't have to have anything to do with Jason. It's still a great show on its own. My
Hmm.
favorite episode has always been the very first one with the doll. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
badass.
Yeah.
The dollhouse, right? Or
Yep.
whatever,
Yes.
you know.
And then the other one that I'm super obsessed with that ripped off a bunch of lines from Magic was called Read My Lips,
Ah.
the ventriloquist one.
The
Hmm.
I'm trying to think because
I had a crush on that redhead. Oh my God.
I
Yeah. What's her name? Roby?
I forget. Yeah, Roby.
so I've entered
When is she married?
I have no idea, man. I
I,
was just like, oh
I'm
my God.
single. Roby, are you there?
Seriously.
so I remember interviewing a girl that was in Friday the 13th the series, Lisa Jacob, who was on like and was in Mrs. Doubtfire. She was in a couple episodes, but she was in the Playhouse episode where it was kind of like the dollhouse or whatever, but it was
Uh-huh.
like a giant playhouse that you went into or whatever. And I remember
Mm.
watching that going, "Oh my God," and I didn't have no clue she was, who she was really or whatever. So when I was going to interview her, I looked that one up, and that episode is amazing. If you ever get a chance to see that again, like that show and everything, I totally recommend that.
Yeah.
But
Criminally underrated show.
yeah, it should have done better. But I think the problem
Hmm.
is they called it Friday the 13th. Had they
Yep.
called it something else, I
Yep.
think it would have done well. And the only reason I thought Paul would hate it is because he hated Chud too, Bud the Chud. And I love Bud the Chud. I think it's hilariously stupid. But I didn't grow up like going to the movies thinking
And
it
Hollywood
was
3, where they tried to pretend that these things were,
no,
the
at least
same as the originals, and they're not.
At least Halloween
Hmm.
3 was produced by John Carpenter, and John Carpenter had said that's the original idea he wanted to do. He did not
Yeah.
want a slasher. He did not want Michael Myers. He wanted a
Hmm.
whole anthology of different things set on
And
Halloween.
it's funny, from what I've
Yes.
read, the original Michael Myers was supposed to be a clown mask, just like an
Hmm.
evil knight. But apparently they couldn't find one, and the guy came up with. He said, "Oh, I got a Shatner mask," and then
Yeah.
history was made. But it was originally going to be a clown mask.
I got to show you guys this real quick. This was one of my bucket list dreams, and I just got these recently, and I'm sure you've probably seen them. But da, 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 da.
Oh yeah, look at that!
Oh, wow, look at that. Oh man,
Nice. Look at the
from
pumpkin
your
head.
favorite Halloween movie, Halloween 3.
Yes, part three is my favoriteest of all because of its incredible original concept, story, execution, style, the music, everything about that movie to me was perfect. As big of a Michael Myers fan as I am, and how that started slashers, and because of Halloween, we have Friday the 13th. Yes, not dismissing any of that. But for me, my personal favorite is Halloween 3. It's so unique and so original, and it has influenced me so much that there's undertones of that in Death Metal Zombies, and especially in Zombified, because in Zombified we have this, instead of a TV commercial, it's a sound that's infecting people, turn them into zombies. That
Six more
idea,
days till Halloween, Halloween,
exactly.
Halloween.
So we have like this strange, scrambled up, weird, crazy, indiscernible vocals going on, and this weird sound, siren noises, and whatever in Zombified that turns people into zombies. That conceptually was brought on by, again, the idea that Halloween 3 could like infect masses of people from around through a television. So my thought was, well, we'll do this with audio and CDs, because CDs were big in that film in Zombified. So same kind of idea of transmission of bad shit through media.
And make a whole bunch of bugs come out of little kids' faces when they put the mask on.
Yep,
Yeah,
just
yeesh.
loved it.
There
I've
was
seen that movie so many damn times. It's insane.
there was a movie. I'm trying to think because I'm trying to look back at what I wrote on Facebook, but there was a movie that came out around the same time as Halloween 3 that was similar in the style of it or
Really?
whatever. Where it was I think a man and a woman working together to stop it might have been like a year later or something. So I think like one of them, I think it was probably the movie after was very similar. And I was like, oh my God, this feels like Halloween 3. Like, they have to stop this corporation or whatever. And they're
Well, was it Looker?
no, that's
Oh, I
No,
love Looker. That's one of my favorites.
me
that's not
too.
it, but that I mean I know the name. I just I was trying
Trying to
to
think of what it could be.
I don't know. Like I was thinking
80s?
it was 80s, I believe. Like, oh, was it one of the ones? It was the stuff.
Oh,
Oh, the
yes, the stuff.
stuff.
The
Yeah.
stuff was very similar. And it was
Yeah, you're
like,
right.
I mean, it wasn't the same story exactly, but it was
Right.
these
But
guys trying to
it's
take down a
huge mass.
corporation.
Yeah, corporate mass marketing this food that is gonna fuck you up.
Yeah,
Right,
and
right.
yeah, and everything kind of works out, and I think was made around the same time as Halloween 3. So like
Well,
Yeah.
I can't honestly say I liked it as much as you guys did. However, I had a massive crush on Stacey Nelkin back then, so I never watched anything with her in it.
I still have a crush on Stacey Nelkin. Do you hear that,
She's
Stacey
awesome.
Nelkin?
She's
Once
awesome.
again, he's single, everybody. So
Well, she still looks incredibly beautiful.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And she
there you
always
go.
has.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, she was great in that. I love seeing like Tim Thomerson and stuff, and
Uh-huh.
my buddy got to work on a project with him and Kim Forey, a while back.
Cool.
And I was just kind of jealous of that. Like that just right there sounds awesome. Like I would
Yeah, I'd
I
like
would
to meet
love to.
Ken Faree would be cool
Oh, you
to
haven't
meet.
met him yet?
Mm-mm.
Oh wow.
I've
I
met so many of those 80s people, but I did not get a chance to meet Ken Faree. I don't think he was at any of the shows that I happened to do back in the 90s. And he was definitely was not at the Dallas Frightmare weekend in 2011 when I was there. Because
a,
I walked around and checked everyone. I think that's when I met George Romero for the first time.
a
So
friend of
he was there. I remember that.
A
Nice.
friend of mine got to work with Ken's company, and he was a script reader for Ken. So he would read
Huh.
the scripts and kind of, whatever, send them, information and let them know which scripts are the better scripts to be a part of. But I was always surprised about that because when he told me that, I was like, wait, how do you don't have experience in this? How did you get this job? So a little jealous,
Yeah.
you
Nice.
know. Um,
Went
but
to dreamjobs.com.
dreamjobs.com. See, that would, you know what? If somebody could create that and that could actually be a real thing that people would do it.
Well, here's the next movie premise that borrows again from Halloween 3. Everyone visits a website to create their ultimate dream job through AI, and it possesses them.
See,
Nice.
there's your next movie. There you go. Like after
That's one that needs more than a $5 budget there.
Well, if you
well,
need somebody to run around in a cow outfit, I'm your man.
It
Yeah,
all comes back to Cal.
Yep,
I
yep,
know.
yep.
We had
We just did a watch party with up in Maryland, and it was going to be a onesie party, and of course I have a cow onesie, and then I showed up, and these guys not only did they bring onesies, they planned it out, and they all had cow onesies, so there was a whole herd of cow onesies there. It was great.
I
That's
was
great.
I was the only female cow because I was the only one who had udders.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
And
it was
again,
great.
that's utterly ridiculous, and I never heard anything like that before.
Uh,
Outstanding in my field, milking it for all it's worth. But
Yeah.
yeah, we
Yep.
we we did Roller Gator and we did Rock and Roll Frankenstein.
Oh wow.
It was
have you
great.
have you heard of Rock and Roll Frankenstein?
Uh-uh.
Oh boy.
I constantly want to think of the movie Rock and Roll Nightmare when I hear the word rock and roll used in a.
Rock and Roll Nightmare's a little bit better. So,
I would rather like be thinking about
It's
Rock
fun.
and Roll High School than,
Oh yeah.
starring Clint Howard than
Yeah.
than that. But I get it.
Rock and roll high school forever with Corey Feldman.
oh God.
Well, sir,
It's weird.
we know you're really busy. We don't want to keep you much longer, but we want to we always kind of ask people like how how can people find you, and we already asked you what you were working on, but like how can people find you if they need to reach out to you?
Well, of course, we have screamtimefilms.com for the horror film distribution and merchandise we've been doing for over 30 years now. So that's the main website for all. And then to find me personally, anyone can connect to me. Don't be shy. Come talk to me. I talk to everybody. You'll find me as Todd Jason Falcon Cook on Facebook. And I've
Nice.
also got an Instagram, Todd Jason Falcon Cook. So those are the three main ways.
Outstanding.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. We really
Thank you.
appreciate you taking your time. I mean, as
Sure.
you said, you're doing the movies, distribution stuff. You're doing the music stuff too, like, halfway through and working on your, I guess you just finished up your stage dive stuff. So you're just, constantly busy, and we just really
Yeah,
appreciate you coming out here and just chatting with us. So
Yep.
thank you so
sure.
much.
Thanks very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys. It was an honor and a privilege, and I'd love to do it again.
All
Yay, I hope we
right.
can.
Well, everybody, I think we have more people planned for this year. We took a break for a little bit because we were just busy with like a million other projects and other things going on, but we do plan to be back with more indie film cafe spotlight episodes. I know Paul's been begging me to do this, and
Yep, yep,
it's
yep, yep.
just a matter of like getting the time to make sure we are
And it
able to
was a
get this.
real treat meeting you and getting to talk to you. So
I
thank you.
know, and you being our guest back, I mean, this just gives us some clout. So thank you
Well,
so much.
thank you for giving a damn about what I've done. That's always to me, it's an honor to hear anyone who even knows of my existence, number one, and especially of my work. Because that's what I put it out there to do. I hope to have people come out and say, "Hey, I was entertained by your films." That's what it's all about. Let's have fun with life.
There you go. Have fun
Okay,
with life.
there
Stay
you go.
positive. Number one, stay positive. Positive creative energy goes a long way.
There you go.
Exactly. Well, everybody, take that to heart and join us next month for a brand new episode. Until then, everybody, have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so here we are in my studio room, and here's a prop I made when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
Behind it, we have "He Knows You're Alone" hiding back there. We all know this one, don't we?
Oh,
Prom night.
shit.
Oh yeah, the hottest band in the world.
Wow.
And then we have one of the greatest Friday films.
So wait, you're a fan of Friday the 13th Part 5, the one that
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
have our
love it.
real Jason in it? All right.
Oh yes,
What about
love part
Jason
five.
Goes to Space?
Jason
I
X
liked
is
it.
fun.
It's fun. It's comic booky. It does to me. It feels disconnected from the rest of the series, but it's fun.
Yeah. I like Todd
Oh,
Farmer as a another
magic.
Todd,
So
you
creepy.
know. Um,
There's magic right here.
yeah.
So creepy.
I hope
Didn't
you guys can see this because I'm not able to look through it what I'm shooting.
Yeah,
So
Carrie.
didn't William
Funhouse.
Goldman write Magic, if I'm correct? I
House
think he did.
40.
William,
William
what's his
Goldman,
name?
the guy did Princess Bride.
There's
All I
your,
know is Anne Margaret was in there, and I was blown away when I saw it.
okay. Can y'all make out this poster here, or is the light glaring? Looks like
It's
the light might be glaring.
it says Cheap
Cheap
Chills
Bills
too.
2.
It's a cool one because it's like a compilation. It's got
Oh,
Phantasm.
yeah. Phantasm, Magic, Scanners, The Fog, Children of the Corn, The Howling. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a neat poster. Over here, oh, here's my Dragon's Lair arcade machine, my pride and joy.
Nice.
Wait, hold on. And I've accidentally messed up our phone conversation here. Hold on. How do I get you guys back?
We're here, so
Well, I know, but I'm seeing like my screen just went dark. I don't know if you guys can see
Silent
what I'm
Night,
doing.
Evil Night. We're seeing that.
Okay, hold on.
yep,
There we
there we
go.
go.
There, now I can see what I'm doing. I accidentally blacked
Pieces,
out.
Scanners
Yep.
2.
Oh, yeah.
This is like our studio.
Yeah.
You should come to our studio someday. Sleepaway Camp 3, Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf.
Hmm.
Can't tell what that one is. Oh, Friday the 13th Part 2. Gotcha. Is that like the Japanese or
It
Chinese?
is Japanese. Yep, Japanese.
Okay. That's
Let
cool.
me, I'm going to turn on my other light here. I got two. That'll help a whole lot.
Yeah, nice. It was Michael Myers. Part 3.
Oh, and here's the
Oh,
drum area.
nice kit.
There's the original drum kit from the band Stage Dive.
That's awesome.
And here's what it looks like to be directly behind the kit.
Nice.
And the other half of the room is way up here. You guys can see it.
What? No double bass?
I do.
Oh, you do?
There's the pedal.
It's we stopped moving, so it's
Hold on. Oh, I did one of those things where I bumped it again. Hold on. Okay,
oh, there you go.
there it is. Double
Gotcha.
pedal.
Nice.
And these drum heads, it's that Stage Dive here. These have been on here since 1996, and they still sound great.
That's great.
The original heads, yeah, they're over 30 years old and still sound great.
Wow, that's amazing.
And here's, I got so many of these, but here's some Stage Dive box sets that are going to be eventually put out, which will contain 16 discs.
Wow.
And yeah, they all have different covers, but will have the same contents.
So is some of your music, is it up on YouTube? Because I've never heard Stage Dive.
I could, are you connected with me on Facebook, Paul?
No, not yet.
Well, you can connect with me, and then I'll send you a couple links. I've actually only got, I think, 3 music videos posted by Stage Dive, and I think that was it. And I haven't logged in the account since the mid '90s. So.
I'd love to hear it.
But yeah, I got a couple really good music videos up there that you probably really dig that are
Yeah,
stable
please.
sounds. But it's the original music. I don't know how to categorize it, except it's got everything in it. It's like thrash, grunge, alternative, pop, rock. It's a smorgasbord, but it's all like kind of driving. Some of it's really heavy.
Outstanding.
Not constant screaming, but there are some screaming moments and some heavy moments and some thrash segments and then some really commercial stuff. So variety. Here's one that shows our final formation of the band, the final members there.
Nice.
And so yeah, whole bunch of box sets here that I'm eventually going to put out there and hope that people will embrace the original sound that we tried to do something with but never really did. Maybe we
Very cool.
do something with it now,
Love it. Well, thank you for that tour. That was awesome. That's a great little
Sure.
extra on air.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Definitely, man. And I've got millions more things. You know me, I have my whole life filmed, so got all the tapes, all the stuff and things around me at all times. Here's a magazine when
You
I
really are an
was
archivist. Holy cow.
Yeah, this is the issue where Todd Falcon became a known pro skateboarder, and it all happened with Big Brother magazine.
Nice.
Nice.
So I keep that by my side. There's a spread there of a trick sequence. And I always wanted to be like the fifth member of Kiss, so I kind of made my own Kiss style Falcon makeup face.
Very
But anyway,
nice.
that's so yeah, I got all kinds of
Kiss
stuff.
meets the Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, Piss Meets the Phantom of the Park. No, that was a good
Park,
movie.
Park.
Yeah, fun movie. Fun movie.
Phantom of the Paradise or whatever.
Kiss meets Phantom of the Paradise might be a good crossover there.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, thank you so much. And again for this.
Guys.
This is awesome.